I like the new music. I really do.
Dude, it's not bad, right?
Good.
Not
Yeah.
bad. And here
It's
we
good.
go. We are off and we are rolling, and we
Off
have
and
a
running.
heavy Saturday coming at you guys. All right, so today we are going to be covering a ton of ground. We're going to be talking about, let's see here. We're going to be talking about the jobs report, of course, because that just dropped yesterday. We're going to talk about new construction, specifically in Metro Detroit. We're going to talk about what's going on with the real comp numbers. That's our MLS. We're going to talk about stocks or stonks or whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about the mortgage rates because they're actually going down. A really fun Zillow report that I read the other day. It's actually not fun, but it's very interesting. Kind of made me laugh a little bit, but there's a lot of truth to it. And then that's a lot of ground. That's a lot of ground. Might even talk about Elon Musk if we can get to it. Why not? Because he's in the news, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning and paying a little bit of attention to.
By the way, that man is brilliant and making sure that you're always talking about him.
That's the truth. He is very, very good at that.
Very good.
Very, very good at that. And one thing I actually really wanted to start with today was let me bring this up real quick. I usually end with the local market, but I want to start with the local market for a change. How do I share a screen? Can I do that?
Well, you can text me whatever you're trying to share. No, there's a little button where you press share.
Yeah. Okay. I see what I got to do. I got to pull this off of here and then do one of these deals here.
By the way, while he's messing around with that, Mike is in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I mess it up every time.
Abu Dhabi,
thank you. And so you're at this cafe. There's an 8-hour time difference. So what is it? It's about 6 o'clock there?
Yeah, 6:02.
Okay. And it's very chic if you can't tell the location that you're at. And you look tremendous with your collar, the whole thing. Anyway.
Abu Dhabi, like Mike Burnett. Trying to pull it all together. Did that work with the screen? Oh my God, we got it going on. Okay. So
by the way, what you guys are looking at, this is internally like what agents look at. This is what's called real comp or the multi-list, and we can pull a lot of data off this. So anyway,
yeah, exactly. Cool. Now and then let me get back over to that. How do I even get to the screen itself? Because I want to highlight something. Maybe it's going to work. Maybe it's not. Nope, it's not going to work. That's okay.
We just go right to the tab.
Just go right to the tab.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work. Well, that definitely didn't work. All right, trying this one more time. I'm really bad at this. I really gotta get.
Great at real estate. Bad at sharing screens.
Okay. Can you guys see that? Did that zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah.
There we go. Okay, so here's what I want to highlight. Check this out, guys. We've got 4,000. This is something I watch every single day. I literally pull it up every day, and it's been really, really, really interesting over the last couple of weeks now. We have 4,000 new properties on the market. I'm going to run through all of this. So we've got 4,000, which is about 1,500 more than we had just a month ago. So over the last 30 days, the number of properties that are coming to market is up almost 30%, which is crazy. That number has not seen a 4 in probably about 2 years now, and we're now starting to see it. Another number that I want to highlight on this thing is contingent continue to show at 116, accepting backup offers at 573, right? And pendings at 2573. So that's putting us somewhere around 3,300 accepted offers. So 3,300 properties, accepted offers. So we now have more properties coming to market than we do properties getting offers accepted on them. Right?
Yep.
Now check this one out over here. This number has not been over 200 again in the last couple of years. That's what I'm used to seeing when I log into the MLS and I look at price decreases. But these are people that have gone on market. They're shooting their shot at a high price, and the market is now not supporting it.
Yeah.
Not supporting it, right? That number is about 4 times normal. Well, what we consider normal over the last 2 years. And last but not least, back on the market, 385. That's a high number. We're used to seeing somewhere around the 200 mark. And back on the market could mean a couple of different things. It could mean failed inspection. It could mean appraisal didn't go through. It could mean the buyer lost their financing for one reason or another. There's a couple of different reasons why property goes back on market. But that number is actually higher, almost double what it has been consistently at that 180 to 225 number for the last couple of years. So I wanted to show like where our market is going. And if you're a buyer and you're out there, today is the day, now's the time,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even kidding. Like you were in this position where it was up until this point, it was taking 4, 5, 6 offers to get a property. Or look at this the other way, right? So for us, we were writing at our high point, like 5.1, I think was our high point number, 5.1 offers to get to buy our property. And now we're back down into the 2s again.
Yep.
Which is good. The competition has really relaxed. And part of that has to do with interest rates, which we're going to talk about, which there's a silver lining to that one. But part of that also goes to sellers are coming to market. So a lot of sellers that I'm talking to, like my folks and stuff like that have been holding onto the property for a long time and they're very high equity, are now saying, okay, I think now's the time. Good is good enough. Now is the time. We may as well make that move.
Yeah.
Right. The actual number one seller out there right now are the Gen Xers, which is really interesting. So those are the people that Austin and I are right on the cusp of. But you're, let's say, but we're millennials.
Yeah, we're right there. Yeah.
But the 40 to 50 crowd are making that next move now, and that's what's bringing a lot of these properties on the market.
Yep.
Because now the Gen Xers are much more comfortable getting into their next property. And I think a lot of people are surprised at how much equity they actually have.
Yep.
And how little the up in interest rate affected what the next payment would be versus the equity they're putting down on the property.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, and actually, can I just jump right into interest rates a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So interest rates up until about 90, 120 days ago have been hovering around 3%. Right. Around, let me find that banner right there. Where are we going? There we go. Around 3%. Look, I even typed the banner out. That's how good I am. Took a little time. Took a little extra time this morning. And then they jumped and jumped and jumped. And then they went as high as 5.5, 5.68, 5.75. I was seeing come across on pre-approval letters about a week ago, right? All of a sudden, the interest rates on the mortgage side ticked down.
Just a little. Just enough to mean something.
Just a little.
Yeah.
And just enough. So now I'm seeing people get a 5.1 interest rate instead of a 5.75 just a week ago, which is a nice reprieve. And what had happened was the stock market took a little bit of a tumble, right? Uncertainty went kind of rose. And the Fed said, okay, we're still going to continue raising rates. We may not, but we're not going to this month. And mortgage companies had inflated the rate to 5.75, anticipating another rate hike so that they'd be ready for it, right? Because the pre-approvals today are the closings of tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, they don't need to give the 5.75 rates. They're good with 5.1 with the Fed-supported interest rates.
Yep.
Fair enough?
It's like, it was really well articulated. I forget who it was. Maybe Derek Thompson. He's a writer in the Atlantic, but one of the things that he talked about was it's the largest increase that we've ever seen in interest rates from it's the most rapid increase we've ever seen.
Most rapid.
Yet rates are historically low.
Yeah.
And so you're right. They shot up like a cannon. I was seeing, you're right, at the height. Like I even saw stuff on FHA above 6, Mike, but now we're down back basically to 5. And it's like we got so spoiled for so long with 3 and 4% interest rates, but the reality is we're at 5%. And you're not going to be mad at yourself for buying a home and paying at 5% for the next 20 years. You're just not going to be mad at yourself. You're locking in on the rate just as much as you are anything else, and it's very good, And
that's it. And here's the other reality, right? Let's say that we get this inflation thing under control over the next 12 months and rates go back down to 4. I'll tell you what, right now, 2 things are going to happen. Home values are going to spike because interest rates went down and home affordability got a little easier. And so you bought that house 10% less than it will be worth in a year, and then you could just refi to a lower rate.
Yep. You
can always refi to a lower rate.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I guess you could technically refi to a higher rate, but that doesn't make as much sense. I mean, I would not do that personally, but that's just me. And speaking of, and this is actually the real one thing I really wanted to talk about. So I'm just going to wipe the mortgage thing. Is that cool?
Go.
All right, let's move on. Job support. Okay. So a couple things. For the last 12 months rolling up to this last job report, every single job report had posted over 400,000 jobs added to the economy per month. Okay. Economists were thinking it would be around 323,000 jobs. That was the average economist and what they were thinking. And when the jobs report dropped on Friday, it ended up being 390,000 jobs. Now check this out. The stock market reacted negatively to a good job report. So sometimes good news can be bad news.
Yeah.
Right? So here's what I mean by this. So one of the things the Fed is monitoring is, of course, the jobs report, the inflation rate, all of those things. And Mr. Powell is saying, okay, what am I going to do next? Am I going to raise rates? Am I going to lower rates? What does this look like? Right? What do I do? This is sometimes where good news can become bad news. The good news of a 390K jobs report means that we have a very strong economy that's still employing a lot of people that are unemployed, which means, okay, the economy could sustain higher rates. So I suspect what we're going to see out of Mr. Powell, I suspect the next two things that are going to happen is, one, we're going to see the inflation rate maybe tick down to 7%, but I don't think it's going to start with a 6. And if it doesn't start with a 6, with this jobs report, good news becomes bad news. We're going to see those interest rates go up to 6% over the next 60 days. Period. That's how that works. That is exactly how that works. Because he wants to see the strength of the economy, and if the economy can withstand interest rate hikes to bring inflation down, right? That's the nuance of a jobs report. And this is why the stock market itself reacted so poorly, and it really reacted poorly to this jobs report. Like if you look at the stocks on Friday, for the most part, we ended up in the red, not the black, even though usually we end up in the black with a good jobs report. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What,
Thank you,
how I
Cody.
like to say it, by the way.
Yeah.
Like jobs reports are a function. Nice. Mike is a side hustle. I'm an economist. By the way, brilliant. Cody.
That's good. That's really good, Cody. I appreciate it.
Look, jobs reports are a function of expectations. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it really is. It's like if the economy is expecting a certain thing, and even if you get below that, it messes with things. And flip side, if the economy is built in and expecting, or markets are built in and expecting another thing, and it's higher, it's like that's an expectations thing.
That's exactly what it is. It is 100% expectation thing.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of the jobs report, and there's again a little more nuanced, a little deep inside the report that I want to mention, is year-over-year wage growth was 5.2%, a little off its peak of 5.5%. But the good thing is wages are still going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Downside is, I think what we're going to see the inflation continue to outstrip wages at 7%, which just means a continual tightening for just your average American, for everybody. I mean, we've seen that at the gas pump just this month, right? I mean, gas prices are definitely not in a downward direction. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I paid $5.29 or $5.19 or something the other day. Yeah.
Jesus, dude, you gotta get yourself a Costco membership.
No, yeah. It's sometimes I don't always want to sit in a 15-minute line just to get gas. So
It's not that long. It moves fast.
okay, well, the Commerce Township one different.
No, for sure. Now check this one out, okay? And I've got two different reports coming in on this. One on a national level, one on a local level. I'm going to share the local level. If I can figure out how to share the screen again, I'm getting better at this. I hope. Boom, it worked. So cranes, again, something I read all the time. Can you guys see this? Is this working?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Great.
Dude, I'm rocking this thing. Okay, new home permits in Metro Detroit dip in April as costs rise. And this is a little bit of a misnomer. So there was a 27% drop in permits given, but it wasn't only because of the cost rising, right? Like, okay, so Mr. Matlock, president of B&D Building, said that people ain't got the money to build, right here. But if you look at it, part of it is this, but part of it is also they're struggling to find people with which to build the houses. Okay, and this was one thing that I wanted to see in the jobs report, which actually the jobs report showed us. Let me get back over this screen here. Boom. There were 16,900 jobs of the 390,000 jobs added. 16,900 were specifically in the building and construction community. So builders, even though the number of homes being built is down in Metro Detroit, 27%, nationwide down almost 20%, it was like 19% last month, they still added 17,000 jobs to that sector. Still added. because really they're still just playing catch up. That's what's actually happening right now, right? So our new construction slump, some of the builders are starting to see, and if you look at it, if you look at the quotes, and that Cranes article, I'll post a link to it in the chat here in a little bit. If you read into the Cranes article, it's the high-end builders that are saying people don't want to pay the money, right? So you're looking at your Birminghams, your Grosse Points, your custom builds in Northville, things like that, like your 2 million plus crowd that maybe at 3% or 3.5% on a jumbo loan, people were like, great, that's cheap money. I'm going to go build this monstrosity. I don't mean it as a monstrosity, but this huge honking house. But when you look at your developers that are like in, let's say, Clarkston or Royal Oak or Novi, Northville, like MI Homes, Toll, Pulte, those guys are still going strong, and they're still releasing lots very, very frugally. Like our contact at MI Homes are telling us that, hey, we have, let's say in one neighborhood, we have 120 lots available, but we can only release them 2 to 4 at a time. If we released all of 120, we would never be able to build the homes. We would never be able to keep up with the demand, right? So as an example of this, at my homes in South Lyon, the rep was telling me that she had 3 lots that came up. So on a Saturday, she sent the email out to 1,100 people that were interested in that neighborhood, right? And it was a first come, first serve. It was the first person to open the email, first person to submit a deposit electronically online, and first person to sign saying, yes, I want to build. Right now, at that point, they meet with the person, they decide if they want to build or not, and then they've got 24 hours to get their deposit back to them, right? So it's not like you lose your deposit, right? Yep. Out of 1,100 people that those 3 lots were emailed to, in 1 hour, over 100 of them have submitted that they want those lots.
Yep.
100 of them. So new construction is taking a step back, but when you segment it out, it's taking a step back the largest in your oversized ultra luxury homes, your Bloomfields, your Birminghams, your downtown Northvilles, Grosse Points, those types of areas. And we're taking a step forward and continuing to is, again, your mainstay, let's call it 400,000 to 900,000 new build. Yeah. Like that is so strong, they just can't keep up to it.
You can't keep up.
Can't keep up.
If you tell the story of a builder, if you're a builder, Mike, here's what you do. You buy land, you subdivide it, you get your permits, you tear up the land, you get the sewers in, you get you run all the utilities.
Yep.
And then you've got to gauge. So these guys are constantly hitting a moving target. Like you think about like you remember those touchscreen games that they used to have at the bars and like the things that go back and forth. You'd have to try to hit a target. I don't know. Maybe I was the only one that played that stuff. But it's like these guys are constantly trying to hit a target of like, what are materials going to cost? What's the job situation going to be? Am I going to be able to find people? What is that going to cost? Am I going to be able to find electrical workers? Am I going to be able to find carpenters? Am I going to be able to find all this stuff? And so what's happening is like a lot of these guys have to actually slow down. Like you were saying, they have to slow down the amount of homes that they're building because it actually has less to do with materials, although it does, and oftentimes way more to do with labor, because you can't balloon up a labor force too large. It's like there's something to be said for. But anyway, so what'll end up happening is you hit it right on the head, and this was really illuminating to me. It's like she flat out said to us, "Hey, look, it's like we could get the materials in. We can get the materials in for 10 homes. We can only get the labor in 5 homes, 4 homes at a time. And so we'll just release the lots for that. Boom, they get snapped up very quickly."
Yeah.
Which plays into the jobs report. And ultimately, like, I think it's going to play into wages, Mike. It has to. Like, you see prices are going up, everything's costing more, and you don't have enough people. It's like wages are going to go up.
Well, and that's interesting because when you segment out the wages are going up, and they're being held down in certain sectors. So when you look at the total of the wages, right, which is 5.2% year-over-year increase, hey, a lot of teachers' unions did not have contracts come up this year. A lot of police officers' unions did not have contracts come up this year, right? If I recall, UAW's contract's up next year, not this year. So you've got a lot of people in different sectors where those wages did not, in fact, go up. Whereas you have a lot of people in other sectors where they went up in excess of 5%, 10%, 15%, even 20%, right? So that 5.2%, it looks like a real small number, but it's also skewed downward, right? And when we talked to a really, really massive accounting firm about that just a few weeks ago in Nashville, where they did a presentation showing that their top 100 clients, which are each they're revenuing over 100 million to hit that list, their average was a 27% raise in their wages over 18 months. Way larger than the 5% that the Fed, or even 7.5% accounting for the extra 6 months. Way larger than that, right? I mean, those. That's just where we're at. And guys, I see everybody on the chat here. Don't forget to ask any questions. Chime in. Tell me where you're watching from. I always like to know that too. Feel free to throw anything in the comments, but definitely say hello. Definitely say hello.
Can I actually share? Like the Department of Labor,
Yeah,
puts out a bunch of data around unemployment rates. It's actually, you just Google it. It's not. It's pretty easy to find. But let me just illuminate that fact that you're trying to show with a little data. So if you look at May of 21, total non-agricultural private wage and salary workers, and they break it out by segment, Mike. But there were, and they do this in the thousands. So there were 7,154,000 unemployed non-agricultural private wage and salary workers. Right? You see what this number is here?
yeah.
It's like literally 3 million people went back to work, and the unemployment rate year over year went from 5.7 to 3.3. And you could separate it out even by sex. Men went from 5.7 to 3.3. Women went to 5.5 to 3.5. We're for all intents and purposes, we're at zero unemployment. Like there's a certain segment of people that just aren't going to work, a certain segment of the population.
And that's
so,
it.
And at some point, unemployment getting too low actually starts to hinder the economy, and that's what we're experiencing. So we're going to have to add jobs. It's like,
well, and that's part of it, right? So part of where our inflation rate is having an issue is part of inflation itself is because of sub 4 unemployment,
yep.
Right? 4% is considered like a perfect employment. It's considered 100% employment by almost every economist out there. But once you go too far below 4, now you've got companies fighting for the workers, which means wages go up, which one would think traditionally is 100% a good thing all the time. And I'm not saying wage growth is a bad thing. I'm never going to say that. Wage growth is a good thing, right? People should get paid what they're worth. But where that ultimately ends up is that end consumer every single time. Every single time. So if Starbucks has to pay $2 an hour more across the board to get baristas in, all of a sudden your $4 drink became a $5 drink. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal because it's one drink that went from $4 to $5, right? But it's not the one drink.
Everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Now, we did have a slew of whiffs on the earning reports this past quarter. That just happened, which is also what partly kept the stock market in the red coming off of last month. But they weren't as bad a misses as people would have thought, because I believe we're going to see inflation starting to tamper down just a little bit. I still don't think we're going to see a 6. I still believe it's going to be a 7. We'll know in a couple of days. One thing I do want to touch. Go ahead.
Do you think that this headline, new construction slump in Metro D, do you think that's a fair headline?
No. I think it's a sensational headline, like most are. I think when we're looking, okay, good example, the Inman News, which is a real estate publication, put out I don't even know if I still have it up. Do I? There we go. Okay, I'm actually going to show this if I can get to it.
We're coming in hot and fast. We're like throwing up screens everywhere.
Heck yeah, we are.
It's like you gave a couple of kids some new toys.
Check this guy out. Pending home sales hit slowest pace in nearly 10 years. Pending home sales dropped 3.9% from March to April, marking the 6th straight month of declines amidst climbing mortgage rates, according to data released from NAR. Now, looking at this headline, one would think the real estate market is just about to go through a complete bust and wipeout. Fair?
Fair.
But now we dig into it. So sure, all the regions saw a decline, but all the regions also saw a decline in the number of homes that were on the market over the last 2 quarters as well. So people are saying, okay, mortgage rates are causing buyers to not buy. That's simply not true. And I know for a fact that's not true because we just had our strongest month ever as a company.
Yep. Now, look, I think we're special for real. But
you mean you and I? Oh, we're definitely special. Well, I mean, we're not short but special, but we're special.
Be careful. No, but I think what we do is special. I really do. But anyway,
No, and I agree with you.
Yeah, we've seen a boom in business. We've got some
Yeah.
other people that we compete with that have definitely seen the business go down.
Yeah. Well, and here in Metro Detroit, we've seen the sales slump around 17%, the number of home sales, but we've also seen the number of new homes on the market at the lowest levels they've been since 2016.
Yep.
So there's a correlating factor with that. Now, the other correlating factor is, of course, rents. Rents are continuing to increase and have yet gone up another 5 to 5.5% just so far this year.
Yep.
And that's what's pushing. Well, that's one of two things that are pushing the market forward, at least here in Metro Detroit, because no matter what, at the end of the day, you got to live somewhere.
Yep.
Right? And when you live somewhere, you only got three options. You're going to write a check to a mortgage, you're going to write a check to a landlord, or you're going to live in your mom's basement. Like, that's it.
Yep.
If your mom's on the slab, then that's out. That's just what that is.
Yep.
So if you're in the bucket of either renting or mortgage, again, you got to write a check somewhere. If you're in the bucket of renting and you're going and you're having to look for new leases and possibly release in 90 days, a lot of those folks are saying, holy heck, my rents are being pushed up 12, 15, 20, 25%. Now I've got to move to a less desirable area. Even though interest rates have gone up, I can still afford a lot of property, bang for my buck at 5%. I'm going to move into that bucket instead. Like, the rising interest rates are one of the two things that are keeping the real estate economy afloat and heavy and hot. Now, on a national level, the other thing that's keeping it afloat are our institutional investors. And we're just now seeing that enter the Metro Detroit market. We have not seen that before. And I want to take a moment to talk about that. So an institutional investor is somebody that's essentially money backed by Wall Street in some form or fashion, right? That could be a direct buyer like an Open Door or a OfferPad, or it could be a direct holder like Blackstone.
Yep.
Right? So Blackstone has committed $4 billion to buying American real estate over the next 3 years. Houses, right? They used to buy during the last down market. They're buying now, and they only buy when they think the market's going to go up because they tend to turn those properties after 5 years. So they buy them, rent them out for 5 years, turn them, and their real estate investment trust then pay that out as dividends and profit, right? Because they owe their stockholders that money. Fair enough? Open Door itself is getting extremely bullish on buying properties because they believe property values are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Between those guys, between OfferPad, Knock, Blackstone, foreign money coming in, right? Because there's a ton of foreign money coming into the American real estate market. These guys have a lot more economists than I do or we do. They're seeing something I think that some CEOs may not be seeing, and that our economy is actually stronger than it looks. Our real estate market is actually stronger than it looks. And even though I'm anticipating we're going to see appreciation almost flatline over the next 24 months, 12 months, 18 months, it's not going backwards.
Yep.
You can raise interest rates by another point and a half, and I still believe real estate will not go backwards simply because rents have moved up and they will continue to move up. And at some point in time, that renter pops his head up or her head up and says, you know what? Rents have gone up on me almost every single year for the past 5 years, but you know what doesn't go up? A fixed rate mortgage. The only way I can guarantee my same payment 5 years from today is to get into a house at a fixed rate.
That's it.
Because they can't change the payment on you for 30 years.
Yeah, like you'll see a small increase in taxes. You've obviously got to pay for some.
Sure. But
You're
compared to
locking
rent,
in on your payment forever. People don't think about that. You're locking in on this payment forever. You know?
Yep. So rents in America have gone up an average of, with the exception of the last 2 years, have gone up an average of 3 to 5% every single year. So if you get a house at $1,500 a month and you get a rental at $1,500 a month, right? In 5 years, the rent's going to be exceeding $1,800. In 8 years, it's going to be exceeding $2,000. Whereas your $1,500 mortgage with your tax increases and maybe even insurance increases goes from $1,500 to $1,600. So who's winning? the guy that bought the house. And that's not including what you're paying down on a mortgage, not including the tax write-off from the mortgage interest deduction. It's not including any of that stuff. It's simply what you're writing the check for every month. And frankly, that's what matters the most to people, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's where we're seeing the real estate market buoy. You've got two different forces. Renters continuing to come in, especially with the largest generation by population, which are our younger millennials that want to be homeowners and our Gen Zs that are just starting to get into the market, right? And you've got those institutional investors that are dumping literally billions of dollars a quarter into the American real estate market. Just, that's where we're at. Now, where we're also at is we have a lot of economic uncertainty. Right now, Americans are at the lowest confidence point. Like, get this, we are at the lowest unemployment rate. Wage growth is actually happening. Inflation is starting to tick down, and yet Americans are not confident in the market. And here's
Not
what
optimistic.
this looks like.
Yeah.
Here's one of the reasons. Lunaterra. Lunaterra. Now, anybody watching the crypto game, I think you know what this means. So Luna, which was one of the top 5 all-stars of crypto, right? You had like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Luna. I forgot what the other one was, but you had like 5 all-stars of the game, right? These are cryptocurrencies that just don't go down, and they will never go down, and they will always go up, right, guys?
That's how it works, right?
That's how it works, and especially when you have Lunaterra, where you have it pegged, right, to the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it's not pegged to the American dollar. It was pegged to an algorithm that tried to peg it to $1. And when too many Luna coins went into the market, all of a sudden more went in, then there was a massive sell-off. In the period of 48 hours, it lost 99% of value.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put. Now, the plan is by Quan, he wants to revive this thing. So he has reissued a second coin. He's reissued at what was it, like $16, I think it was a share is what he started at the issue price at,
Yeah,
which immediately dropped by 50%. Immediately dropped by 50%. It crashed again a second time. Right? And it didn't just, when Luna went, it didn't just affect one coin. It affected a whole slew of them. Like if you look at Bitcoin, it's trading below 30 as of today. If you look at Ethereum, it's trading below 1,800 as of today. I mean, at one point, Bitcoin was north of 60,000. At one point, Ethereum was north of 4,000.
Yeah.
Right? Because of Luna's crash and because of the shakiness of the market, $500 billion of wealth was wiped off in 1 week. Billion. And when shakiness happens, what else starts dropping? That's how that works, guys.
How it works.
I'm afraid of the crypto market. Stocks could be next. I mean, I've seen Netflix go down 60% in value. I've seen Peloton go down 80% in value. I've seen all these things tumble over the last couple of months. I mean, one by one, they're all getting knocked down. Microsoft is kind of last man standing. Facebook got crushed. Zillow got crushed. Zillow's down 60%, right? Off peak, because they announced they're no longer buying homes. But the truth of the matter is, and this is the truth of the matter, when it comes to the stock market, ETFs and mutuals, I'm going to put a link to this in here as well. There's a page I follow called Personal Finance Club on Facebook. So good. In fact, I'm going to pull this up if I can get to it. Unless you're faster than I am, Austin.
No, what am I looking at?
Facebook Personal Finance Club. So one thing that he has done a really good job of, and
I was over here looking up.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can share the screen from here. And guys, I think this is a really cool guy to follow. He's an investment banker. He's been following the market himself for of course years and years and years. There we go. Share. All right, you guys see that?
Yep.
There we go. Check this out. So we're talking long periods of time, but even in the market, no matter what happens, if you want to double your money, you can put it into a basic index fund. And I'll show you which index funds we're talking about as well. At an average rate of return of 10% per year, which is what it's been for the last literally 20 years, even with the other down market, you double your money in 7 years. If you put it into a high interest rate savings account, which right now 0.6% is actually very high, most money markets don't even hit that, it takes you 116 years to double your money, right? Here are the crashes. All of the crashes. Right? Here's COVID. Here's the Bitcoin crash. Here's the financial crisis. Here's Black Monday over here, right? Here's stagflation, 1973. Here's the dot-com bust. All of these. And all of these we have come back from. All of them. Check this out. Here are your basic index funds from 2012 up to today, 10 years. These are the basket of funds that generally have some tech in it, but they follow the S&P 500 or the Russell 5000 or the S&P 50. That's what these guys follow. And guys, if you want to take a quick shot of this with your camera, because these are the funds that you can invest in and you just don't need to worry about, right? But even with the current downturn, which is just this little bit right here, that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all we're talking about. Had you invested $10,000 in 2012, right? Even with COVID, and then with the current downturn, that 10,000 is still worth 35,000.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Even with the downturn.
Yeah.
Right? So again, in my opinion, you just got to keep on investing little by little by little. That's it.
It's really interesting that we're talking about this because you rattled off a lot of names that just got hammered. And like I love that you're talking about Netflix, because Netflix just felt like this. It just felt impenetrable.
Netflix is just a show, Dad.
Oh, okay. Just a show. Anyway, but when you look at the S&P funds, like I own SPY, SPY, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like at one point, I think it capped at 245, 248, something like that a share, and like things
There it is.
down enough where it went down to like I think 194, something like that.
Yep.
And so it lost. I don't know what the actual number was, 22% of value, something like that.
Yeah.
And so,
But did it?
On the flip side, it's like Peloton lost 90% or something, or 80%.
So that's an interesting argument, right? So, in one thing I'm going to postulate is, over a long enough period of time, you lose 100% of the time in individual stocks. Period. You just do. Like literally, you lose 100% of that. Think about it. I mean, at one point in time, Blockbuster was the gem and the jewel of the S&P. At one point, Kodak could not be beaten. At one time, Peloton was like the savior of the S&P because it kept on going up during COVID. Where are we at now, right? And that's why a good ETF and a good mutual fund, and let those guys just deal with it, frankly, is a much better play. I am not a financial analyst. I do not have the time because I work with clients and I work with agents and I work on those things on my day-to-day. I do not have time to sit there for hours upon hours upon hours and study individual stocks and hope that I get smart. 10% of my portfolio is in individual stocks because I want to test some stuff out, like, I don't know, Tesla, which apparently has not gone well for me this last month and a half or so.
They bounced back a little bit here. Yeah.
Bounce back, bounce down, bounce back, bounce down. But check this one out. I love this chart. This time is different. The stock market has fallen 10% or more 37 times since 1950. Every time it feels like it could be the big one. Every time the market recovers. Look at all of these dips. 37 times the market went down 10% or more. And yet, look at that line.
Yeah. Well, this time feels different, Mike.
Yeah, investing in the market is not a day-to-day activity. It's a decade-to-decade activity.
Warren Buffett has a quote. I'm going to screw it up, but he says basically something like, the stock market is just a tool for transferring money from the inpatient to the patient.
Yeah, that's a great, yes, and that is the quote, actually. Check this one. Netflix and chill. Buying Netflix stock at any point in the last 5 years resulted in underperforming an index fund. Here's the S&P 500 continuing to go up. Here's Netflix. If you time the market right, you did really, really well. But who timed the market right?
But you didn't.
Nobody did. Nobody does.
That's your original value.
Yeah. There you go. How to get rich. Earn 60K a year, spend 50, invest 10. Repeat. This is good, guys. Personal Finance Club is a good one. And he's got a good solid, I think he's got a good solid head on his shoulders. And he's like a voice of calm when there's a storm like there is today, when there's economic uncertainty like there is today.
What I want to know, Mike, is where did you come up with the word stonk?
Stonk? Stonks.
Stonks. It's like
Stonks are
stonk.
like GameStop and stuff like that, like those meme stocks that they jump up in value and then they go and they flat line and blah 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 just because they get like popular on Reddit and stuff like that for 2 days.
Yeah.
Which of course when it goes down in value, everybody always wants to blame somebody. So it's like when it's going up in value, it's like all the Redditors save the day, and then like when it goes down in value, they're like, oh, the Fed should have stepped in and stopped the dive of GameStop or AMC or any of these. I'm like, no, it's just gambling.
I see. It's a meme.
Black. Yeah, it's like put it on black or put it on red.
Yeah,
Same
got
thing.
it.
See, and that's just it. Individual stocks over a long enough period of time always result in going to zero. They just do. Now the index funds, and this is interesting to me, when we looked at those index funds, the other popular thing about those 10 most popular index funds is they have very, very, very low costs, right? So every index fund or every ETF or every mutual fund, they all have a cost associated with them: 0.2%, 0.4%, 0.5%, 0.8%, right? Literally, they all do. They all do.
There's managed funds that go above 1%. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when you're looking at those, the big thing, there are some as high as 2%, right? Yeah. Over the long period of time, the guy that you're paying 2% to manage the fund versus 0.4%, which is about the max I'm ever willing to pay.
Yeah.
The guy at 2% lost. And over a 30-year period, his money was worth half of the guy that's paying 0.4%, because that 1.6% you did not get this year, you're not making 10% on. Yep. And next year, and next year, and next year, repeat 27 more times.
Yep.
So they're going to try to sell you. And if you pull up a prospectus, and that's all it is. A prospectus is simply a sales tool trying to sell you how good their index or their mutual is. They're going to try to tell you that they've got this guy over here that predicted this thing over here and this guy over here, and they cost a lot of money, so we got to charge you more because we got to pay their salaries and all those things. Doesn't matter. VOO, SPY, VGSAX, they all perform the same. But you've got 3 very different yearly costs.
Yep.
And that's what's going to impact how much you're going to have at the end. And when I say at the end, guys, these are not things that you buy into and you sell on a month-to-month or a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis. These are things you just simply put a couple of bucks in every single month. Buy a share a month, buy 2 shares a month, and you just let it ride. It goes up, you buy 2 more shares. It goes down, you buy 2 more shares. You just keep going over and over and over.
Yep.
That's it. That's how these work.
Rinse and repeat.
That's all it is. Okay, so there was a Zillow report, and I just saw this in the Morning Brew the other day. I don't know if you caught this one, but there was a report that said that 65% of Gen Xers and 61% of millennials at some point in time during the home buying process cried.
I saw that. I laughed my butt off, man.
Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I kind of want to bring that up to the top. It kind of as like an end note, because at the end of it, there has been a lot of hurt and a lot of pain in the market. There has been, right? So I always want to make sure that we're setting expectations right. The market is loosening up a little bit for buyers. It is. So now it's taking 2 offers instead of 6 offers, maybe, right? Maybe 1 offer if it's the right house and you play to win and you got the right agent that has the right relationship with the other agent, like we do. You're using the right lender, which has a great relationship or a great reputation in the market, right? But for sellers, it's still a great time to sell, of course, right? We know this. I mean, any buyer can tell you that. Anybody in the market right now that's looking to buy a house can tell you that it is definitely a good time for sellers, right? Now, are the good times going to continue to roll where you get 10 offers and you get free occupancy and you get free this and free this and free this? No. Why? Because sellers have been winning for 5 years. And at some point in time, the buyer's got to win too.
They got to win, yeah.
And now's the time. Today is the day. We're starting to see that subtle shift in the market.
You know what I keep thinking about? Right, you played board games growing up, or you play board games now, right? Do you have a favorite board game, by the way?
I mean, Ticket to Ride is kind of my go-to. Sequence.
I don't think I've ever... Ticket to Ride?
Ticket to Ride.
I don't think I've ever played it.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, I like it. Anyway. Hey, what's up? What I would say is all right, you think about a game of Monopoly. It's like, I'm just going to use Monopoly. there's like it's like there's games where it just kind of drags, and then something happens and everything on the board reshuffles very quickly. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
By the way, when you take a look at the health of an economy, it's like that's oftentimes what they look at, right, Mike? It's like a stagnant economy means money moves very slowly from my hands to the baker, to the carpenter, to the right. It's like very moves in a more heated economy means the money moves very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of feels like this like great reshuffling is happening. So you had said the vast majority of home sellers right now are people kind of like Gen X, like 50. And I agree with you. I'd say our average home seller is probably somewhere between 40 and 55. Agreed, like somewhere right in there.
Yeah.
And then I would say our average home buyer is probably more like 35.
Yeah.
Right. So there's people that are 50 that are moving out of whatever home that they're in. Either they're upgrading a lifestyle, maybe they're downsizing a lifestyle, something like that. But their inventory is starting to reshuffle a little, right? And that's why the amount of inventory is going up. And then that money's going toward, and then those homes are being able to be sold to the 35-year-olds, which then frees up things for 30-year-olds, which then frees up things on lower price points, And so just like everything's reshuffling. And at the same time, whenever you have a market adjustment, it knocks people off the fence, right?
Yeah.
So like people are kind of like, oh, I'm going to see what happens. Oh, I'm going to see what happens. Oh, I'm going to see. Oh, rates went up, and I don't see them going down because, holy cow! I look at everything else that I'm buying in my life, and everything else keeps going up. And oh my gosh, my rent just went up. And oh my gosh, it's like all these events are kind of happening, and it's reshuffling things. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
No, that makes perfect sense, and you're absolutely right on that. And there is a bit of a reshuffle going on right now, and it just happens every generation.
Yeah,
it does. And
by the way,
going back,
can I sprinkle some optimism?
Yeah.
I was listening to an economist. By the way, I can't emphasize how much of dorks we are. I know you spend a bunch of time reading. I spend a bunch of time listening to podcasts. Not only like psychology, but I'm obsessed with it, and also economic data. It's like so. Anyway, so it's fun to talk about this with you, Mike. But anyway, and you're awesome at it. I love that Cody put that comment in there that said, "Mike, the economist." Also, that's such a great comment. Throw that thing.
That's a pretty good comment. That's a pretty good comment.
It's so perfect, right? Because you and I, people are actually getting like a behind the scenes of an actual conversation that you and I would have. Mike is a side hustle. I'm an economist. It's so good.
It's really good.
But if I could sprinkle some optimism, it's like there's a lot of economists that are comparing what's happening right now to the 1940s and 50s. So the 1940s and 50s, what ended up happening is you had the world wars, and we had to shift the economy to get through that. And then we had to shift the economy back. And then you had the baby boom generation.
Yeah.
Everything started hitting. It's like everybody started having babies. It sped everything up. Everybody was buying homes. It's like my first home was built in 1959. You can't drive. Virtually every home in Metro Detroit in an older neighborhood was built somewhere between 1940 and 1970. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Virtually every home was built in 1959 on average, in Metro Detroit. But anyway, it's when they turned farmland and Westland and Garden City into just nothing but city blocks and neighborhoods, right? And so, and then you had the 1950s and it boomed. It's like a lot of people are comparing this to that, where now you've got the millennial generation kind of coming into their own, and they're going to start having babies. It's very interesting.
Well, and there's a lot of truth to that. And one thing I want to point out, because we actually do have a little bit extra time from the list. I said I might be able to get to Elon. I've definitely been able to get to Elon, so I'm going to talk about that real quick before we take off. So Elon is very, very bearish, not bullish, bearish on what's going to happen with the economy. All right. So is JP Morgan Chase. So is Goldman Sachs. But here's the thing: there's no data behind it. Like you've got two different CEOs right now. They're out there in the market. You've got a handful of them that, frankly, like Elon, who is considered a celebrity CEO. I consider him a celebrity CEO. I mean, part of his power as a CEO is just being out and in the world and in the news on a daily basis. Fair enough. That's part of it. And he's saying, okay, we're going to freeze all hiring. I want everybody back in the office, and we're going to reduce our ranks by 10% because I think the economy is going to go down.
Yeah.
Right? You've got Chase and Goldman Sachs kind of saying the same thing, yet there's no data. There's no data.
That's really interesting. I took Jamie Dimon's statements a little bit differently. So Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, came out and said, "I don't think we're coming into an economic storm. We're preparing for a hurricane."
Right.
And I, on a face value, I read those comments a little differently. The way I read it was, "Hey, look, we're going to batten down the hatches. We're going to trim up our business. We're going to clean some things up, and we're going to get tight. We're going to analyze everything as though a hurricane is coming." But what's interesting is like when you look at the JP Morgan like security side, they speak different language than the bank side, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and you often hear the head of investment banking saying totally different things than Jamie Dimon will.
Yeah.
And so I think Jamie Dimon was speaking, and it got sensationalized because that's what headlines do. But I think what he's talking about is more like, hey, we're preparing. Whether or not it happens, we're preparing,
Sure. And it's a prudent thing for a company to do.
No doubt.
Prudent
Especially
thing.
as big as Chase, yeah.
But let's bear in mind, we've got 3 major chip factories that are being built right now.
Yep.
We're going to add literally, with those 3 factories alone, it's estimated that they're going to add directly and indirectly 100,000 jobs.
That's a wild number.
That's a wild number. I mean, and that's not an untrue number either, because if you look at General Motors, so for a long time, the UAW was about 1 million members strong, right? A lot of them here in Detroit, right? Here in Metro Detroit, let's take General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. If you take all of their employees and put it together, at one point in time, they were 1 million people.
Yep.
But there was another 1.5 million of businesses that were supported because of those people. Because the guy at GM needed to go buy groceries, and needed to go buy gas, and needed to go bowling, and needed to, take his kids somewhere for fun, or whatever those look like. So all of those other businesses. So it's not just the 25,000 or 20,000 people those 3 chip plants are gonna eventually hire and put into place. It's the other 75,000 people that are going to be employed because of it, because of those 25,000 people that are going to get paychecks.
Yeah.
Guys, our economy is not that there are, as of yet, other than an emotional response when things go up, they must go down. Other than that emotional response that, hey, when inflation goes up, the economy's got to go bad. Other than the emotional response, when mortgage interest rate goes up, homes must stop selling. Other than that, the data is not there.
Yeah.
But you know what the data is there for? Almost any time that you buy a home in the United States, you always won. Because at the end of the day, the average American lives in their home for 11 years. If you bought a home at the last peak, which is 2006, and you stayed there like the average American to 2017, you sold that home for 25 to 35% more than you bought it for in 06.
Yep. At the worst possible time.
Yeah. Yep. The only time you could have potentially lost is if you bought a home in 99 before the dot-com crash, and then there was a pause on homes in 99, 2000, 2001, and then 11 years later you had to sell in 2010. Sure. Okay. That year sucked, but the reality is, anytime you go past 10 years, you always win in real estate.
Yep.
And very few people go under 10 years in real estate.
Not anymore.
In fact, the majority of them don't. Actually, the only people that do go under 10 years are the people that just bought a home back in 04 or 14, 15, 16. And when the mortgage interest rates dropped in 2021, 22, they're like, shoot, instead of doing the kitchen, we'll just buy the next home. Because we're at 4% interest rate, and I can go get a 2.75 over here, and I can borrow the money for so cheap. I can go buy, instead of being in my $300,000 house and then redoing the kitchen for the same cost, because all of a sudden labor got expensive and the material got expensive, I can just go buy a 450. So I'll just go buy a 450.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yep.
That's all I got, guys.
Gosh, we went through a lot today. Rattle it up. All right, what did we talk about?
Okay. Let me get back over there. All right, we talked about the jobs report. Good news is not always good news. Interest rates are going to go up because of it. The new construction slump in the luxury market is because people just don't want to pay the price. In the non-luxury market is because they can't find the workers and they can't find the construction materials to build them fast enough. We talk about Lunaterra scaring the crap out of everybody, including the stock market. We talked about the mortgage rate decrease from 5.75 to 5.10. We talked about Zillow and buyers not very happy about, but buyers, today's your day, now's your time. Lower interest rate, plus less buyers in the market and more sellers in the market. Go find you a house. Call us, 248-886-4450.
Look, still a seller's market,
Sure.
and rising inventory, lowering interest rates. It's like there's a lot of folks that might have gotten frustrated 3 months ago going, I'm going to wait till next year. It's like, no. Do it now. Do it right now. On the flip side, sellers, it's like in this market, I actually said it to two different sellers this week. In this market, if you're not selling, it's like you need to take a look at what that price is. And we're seeing that. So we saw that huge uptick in price adjustments. It was like, how many price adjustments were there when you looked at Brookout, Mike? You froze on me. It was a lot though. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike froze. By the way, as always, so we do this on the first Saturday of every month. Like, comment, look at the YouTube page. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Mike just did a whole video on the best firework displays in Metro Detroit. We just did one on the best concerts this month. We just did about this, like a really cool way to find a bunch of information out on Metro Detroit. So go to youtube.com/Michael Perna. Really quality stuff. Mike spends a lot of time doing that. As always, if we can help you with anything real estate related, look, I always say whether or not we're going to get paid on it or not, I just want to help you as a human being. And so reach out to us and we'll do everything we can to help you. And as always, we do this the first Saturday of the month. So if you have economic questions, make sure that you have those prepped, get those over to us. You can Facebook message any of us anytime, or you can reach out, call us anytime. And get that over to us. And we want to help you in any way we can. At the end of the day, we're grateful for the families that we help. We're grateful for everything that you guys do. And look, we just want to help the humans. So I find that the more humans you help, the better off that everybody is. So anyway, appreciate your time, guys. I know Mike's like totally frozen, but anyway, so say goodbye to Mike from Abu Dhabi.